We are less than 48 hours away from the NFL trade deadline, with several teams getting active early in the wide receiver market. 4 wideouts and new homes in the AFC, including 2 AFC East rivals adding to their offenses. The Chiefs adding a 3-time All-Pro, and the Ravens adding even more firepower to their stable of talent. And I am thrilled to be joined by a 2-time Super Bowl champ and former NFL general manager Jon Robinson, making his debut right here on HQ with us. And Jon, just given that this is our first time chatting, I got to start things off by picking your brain, if you will. I would love for you to just give us a little bit of insight into what it's like this time of year for that front office. You got the trade deadline staring you in the face, and you're trying to find ways to strengthen your roster.
Yeah, this next couple of days are going to be really hectic around the NFL and the offices. You've really got 3 categories of teams. You've got the teams that are buyers, that are kind of in the hunt here in November, making a push in December, trying to play football in January. You've got the sellers, teams that are kind of out of it and looking to stockpile draft picks. And then you got the teams that are just kind of sitting pat, unless you pick up the phone and call. And they will listen to you. So I think that most of the staffs have done their homework and they know the players that are available. But really it's about the GMs. I mean, the GMs are getting on the phone, they're texting back and forth, talking with ownership. You know, it's a team decision. So it's the head coach, it's the general manager, and it's the owner when you consummate these trades. But it's on the GMs now to really pick up the phone and call and see which players are truly available. And try to craft the deal. I tried to make a deal my first year right at the deadline in 2016, and it got right to the end, and we just couldn't quite pull it off. But it was anxious times. Anxious times,
and I would assume maybe not a ton of sleep, right, Jon?
No, not a lot. Or you don't get a lot of sleep during the season anyway. You're up early and you're home late. You know, that's the way it goes.
It makes sense. But we've already seen the AFC shuffle around 4 receivers over the last several weeks. But now I want to ask you, what other positions do you think we could maybe see some movement over the next 24 plus hours or so?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. There's been a ton of movement with the receiver position. I think over the last couple, week or so, you started to see some movement on the lines of scrimmage, and that's kind of where I'm going to focus. I think it's going to be the offensive line for these teams that are looking to shore up, either their run game. I wouldn't be surprised if a back maybe got traded with Saquon and Derek. Both of those guys went for over 100 yards again today. So maybe there's a back that gets moved, but I think protecting these quarterbacks, especially some of these young explosive quarterbacks, as we inch closer to the playoff season, it's going to be paramount for these teams that are in the thick of it. So the lines of scrimmage for the offense, and then conversely on the defensive side, it's pressure, right? We're trying to get to the quarterback. You saw Uche go to Kansas City this past week, so I think pass rusher is another position that could be a hot one.
Okay, well, speaking of pass rushers and O-linemen, who could be some maybe high-impact names that could be on the move by Tuesday's deadline?
Yeah, I think two guys that have kind of stuck out to me as I started to look at it and I saw his name floating around a little bit today, is Azeez Ojulari with the New York Giants. He had, I think, eight sacks his rookie year. He's up to 10. He's tied for 10th now in the league lead there. He's doing a really good job. He's at the end of the last year of his rookie deal, so he's going to be looking for a new contract this season. And maybe general manager Joe Schoen wants to capitalize and try to get that draft capital now. On the offensive side, I'm going to go with the 5-time Pro Bowler, the old Iowa guy. He was a former top 10 pick, Brandon Scherff, down in Jacksonville. We've seen Trent Baalke already move Cam Robinson. Maybe they continue that move with Brandon, shoring him up and getting him somewhere where you can help form up, somebody's offensive line.
Especially as you talk about some of those teams in those 3 buckets, those buyers, those sellers, and those standing pat. Jaguars currently now sitting at 2-7 on the season, certainly could be in that selling bowl right there that we talked about. But let's look into some of those teams that could be those movers and shakers ahead of the deadline. Give me a team from the AFC and a team from the NFC that you believe could be active either as buyers or sellers come Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, you hear Detroit, you hear Atlanta, you hear all these, these teams getting thrown around. I'm going to go with 2 guys that I worked with. On the AFC side, I'm going to go with Nick Caserio down in Houston. They've got a little over $5 billion in cap space. They gave up a ton of sacks the other night against the Jets, and I think they lost one of their young guards to injury the other day. So I think that they could be a team that could be in play, with a super talented guy like Stroud. They've got some explosive playmakers on the offense with Mixon and Tank Dell. They've got a Pro Bowl tackle and Tunsil. Adding another piece of that offensive line could really help this Texans offense. And on the NFC, I'm going to go with a guy who worked with me here in Tennessee, Monty Ossenford out in Arizona. They had a big win today. And I think they could get some help with the pass rush. They had 6 sacks today, but I think they could target one of these guys to help them get after the passer.
Yeah, getting after the passer and protecting your passer, two positions that we could definitely see putting some support around those guys. But I want to put you back in the GM chair. Can you just build me the perfect trade? Who goes where and fits perfectly in a void in a new home?
I'm going to stay with the teams that I talked about. I'm going to stay with Arizona and give them Azeez Ojulari. I think Atlanta may make a play for him. He was in Atlanta. Or he's from Atlanta, but they just don't quite have the draft capital. And I'm going to do kind of the standard pick flop here where the Giants get a 3rd rounder in next year's draft and the Cardinals get a 5th rounder back that was tied up in the Leonard Williams trade from the Giants. And Cardinals get their pass rusher, and they've got a ton of cap space this spring. I think they've got over $100 million in cap space. If Azeez comes in here and produces, they can extend him. And then. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please go on.
And then I've got one more going back to Houston, and I'm going to give them Scherf. I think it gives a chance for Houston to shore up the offensive line. They get Brandon Scherf and a 6th rounder from Jacksonville. In Jacksonville, Scherf's he's got a void year in the last year of his contract. They pick up a 5th round and really stockpile a bunch of picks for next spring to try to rebolster that team.
You talk about the Cardinals getting that pass rush help, especially considering they are, I know the NFC West is all decided by a game or so, but currently sitting atop of that division and certainly could use that to help bolster them. And same thing goes for the Texans as they are sitting those 2 games ahead of the rest of the way. Certainly could make things interesting. Jon, we appreciate you stopping by HQ, and we got to have you back on for some more. This was great. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
And whether it's trade deadline, the biggest news, or the biggest games, we got you covered. News, highlights, scores, and everything in between. You know where to catch us, right here on CBS Sports HQ.